Sir, go ahead, sir. Naveen, sir.
Yeah, Chenagappa, kindly brief him. Just a minute, he will brief, introduce speaker, and then we'll go ahead.
Okay.
Welcome all. Thank you for staying with us. We had some technical glitches at the speakers and we had to delay this session. However, as they say, we are able to fix the connections, and finally we have with us Dr. Sanjeev Guru Gopinath. Sanjeev ji received his BE degree in Electrical and Electronics Engineering from Dr. Ambedkar Institute of Technology, Bangalore, and MTech degree in Digital Electronics and Communication Engineering from MS Ramaya Institute of Technology, Bangalore, both from VTU Belgaum. He obtained his PhD degree in Signal Processing for Communications from IISc Bangalore. He is currently working as a professor in Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering at PES University, Bangalore. He has earlier worked with PES Institute of Technology and CMR Institute of Technology, Bangalore. His research interests are areas of detection and estimation theory, information theory and statistics, cross-layer optimization, and machine learning techniques for cognitive radio networks. He is a recipient of the Best Paper Award across all the tracks of IEEE India. Once again, I apologize from our side for the technical glitches. Let's get started with the session. Dr. Sanjeev, it's over to you.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction and for the kind invite from IEEE ComSoc. I'm really sorry about the delay from my end, so please forgive me for this. A couple of experimentation, thanks to Dr. Ganeshan, we are able to. Okay, so let me start. The topic of today is non-orthogonal multiple access and the relevance in 5G communication systems. So the title is slightly different than what I had originally given, in the flyer, but the context is the same, so it's not anything new. So this, before we get into the talk and the rest of the talks, give us a little bit of flavor on the kind of research that we do at PES University in my group. Very briefly, the center area of research that we look into is what is given here in the middle, layer communication systems. Recently, we have been looking at the integration of different technologies related to 5G communication systems into works that we looked into was ambient backscattering communications with cognitive radio, as you can see here, between heterogeneous cognitive radio networks. Pictures, the last two pictures that you see here is something that you will see in the talk today also. Non-orthogonal multiple access, that is NOMA, with cognitive radio hashing. This physical layer communications, we also look into speech technology problems such as voice activity detection, long-term voice activity detection, and language identification using convolutional recurrent neural networks, detection over power line, novel speech representation using multi-taper based modified group delay function. We also look into that is radars for millimeter wave radars for driverless cars and things like that. So I actively work with the Private Limited and also Robert Bosch Center for Cyber Physical Systems, developing detection algorithms and then localization algorithms for millimeter wave radars. So we look into underwater acoustics, specifically detection and source number estimation in underwater acoustics. Recently looked at compressive sampling based source localization using acoustic vector sensor array. Funding agency for this type of work that we have is Naval Research Board. Recently started also looking into multimodal signal processing. One of my PhD students is looking into this. Basically, the picture that I have here is moving particle source detection using polygon-shaped arrays. We looked into the cubic array and the limiting case of a polygon array, which is the spherical array. To talk more about this, because I've already made you all wait, so let me just directly get into the outline of the. To talk a little bit about 5G, what 5G is, what are the demands of 5G. I won't spend a lot of time going to from 1G to 4G because most of the attendees could already know about these things. That I would like to touch upon for 30 seconds is multiple access technologies. So what are the different types of multiple access technologies? We already know these things. Prelude into what non-orthogonal multiple access is, what NOMA is. Typically, we look into NOMA, which is power domain NOMA and also code domain NOMA. We look into two different techniques called as superposition coding and successive interference cancellation. I will spend a little time on code domain NOMA, not a particular thing in detail. Upon or just briefly mention what are the different techniques which fall under the code domain NOMA. Some other class of NOMA techniques, I'm just going to give a brief note on these as well. On comparing NOMA with any other orthogonal multiple access technique, OMA, and then tell you how OMA. That's a little bit about NOMA used in industry and standards. One of the main focus of this talk is going to be readily integrated with other 5G related technologies, and I will pick up some of the examples from talk about that. I'll skip this introduction part from 1G to get into what 5G is. You have all been listening to speakers, eminent speakers from industry in this webinar series for now. So they all have given a flavor of what 5G is so far. Just a little bit that I want to talk about in 5G is that it kind of offers significant improvements in data rates to 20 gigabits per second, which is of the order of 1 milliseconds. Efficiency comparable to LTE. Fundamental things that is envisioned in 5G is device to device, machine to machine type communication systems, leading to implementation of IoT, narrowband IoT, and then its variants. Several applications, and to name a few: vehicular networks, e-health, education, and industrial IoT. Some of the key innovations, some of the key technologies which are associated with 5G, people are working exclusively on these things now. Cognitive radios, millimeter wave communications, software defined networking, and so on and so forth, to name a few. At this point, I also want to emphasize a little bit about an alternative view. Some of the people who are working in 5G also believe that 5G is super hype. The kind of promises that are given in 5G is very similar to what in the 3G era, and we know that that did not fly. There is another school of thought which says that 5G is super hype, so it's actually something which will not fly, and therefore we need to look into higher generation 6G and then so on and so forth. And discussions on 6G is already happening all over Europe and US. Look into any of these communication related conferences like Globecom or ICC. All the invited speakers will be talking about 6G and stuff like that now. School of thought. Some people say that there is still meat in 5G. You can still do a lot of things in 5G, and some other it's not. And 5G is dead. But we will continue with the first school of thought for now. But what I want to focus in this talk is where does this non-orthogonal multiple access stand for 5G communication systems? To motivate what non-orthogonal multiple access technologies is, let's spend 30 seconds looking at what are the different types of orthogonal multiple access technologies. So this is something that everybody knows. You have frequency division multiple access, time division multiple access, code division multiple access, carrier modulation now. So basically what happens in FDMA is users are given different frequency bands and they can talk at the same time using the same code. Users are given different time slots and they can access the entire bandwidth using the same code. Multiple access, users can access the entire bandwidth at the same time. User is given orthogonal codes. So there is something which is orthogonal, differentiating between the users so that there is no inter-user interference. FDMA, TDMA, and CDMA have been used in 1G, 2G, and 3G respectively. GSM uses TDMA. Given this key requirements in fifth generation communication systems, for which these orthogonal multiple access techniques fail to satisfy these requirements, the 5G demands number of users, in fact, massively large number of users. It's low latency, high spectral efficiency, and energy efficiency. Basically, energy efficiency is defined as the spectral efficiency given unit watt of to look at low complexity receivers. Okay, so this massive number of users and low latency, high spectral efficiency is like for 5G. Non-orthogonal multiple access has been looked at as a promising solution. Before getting into NOMA, let me tell you that NOMA is nothing but an old wine in a new bottle. There is not something which is brand new. It has been there for close to 50 years for now. Something which is well known in the area of information theory and also the theory of multi-user detection. Principle of NOMA, advantage over other orthogonal multiple access techniques such as OMA is very well known in information theory. As NOMA in this context is called as interference mitigation technique in multi-user detection. There is nothing new. The only thing is now key requirements for 5G, NOMA is something which is main idea in NOMA. The idea in NOMA is as follows. The idea is to overcome the limited user capacity, number of users than the available orthogonal resources. If you have 10 frequency bands and if you want to use FDMA, 10 different users with one user, something that NOMA goes against, you might want to support something like 20 users over these 10 orthogonal resources. You are supporting more number of users than the available orthogonal resources, becomes non-orthogonal. So that is the whole idea of non-orthogonal multiple access. To start to support more number of users, of course, there is going to be an increase in the receiver complexity than the available orthogonal resources, means user interference. These users will interfere with each other. So if you want to eliminate this interference, or if you want to get rid of this interference, then you need to make the receiver a little more intelligent. The receiver a little more intelligent, I mean you are adding receiver complexity. This increases the receiver complexity at least by a polynomial order. Polynomial is the number of users. What is the main idea? So more number of users than available orthogonal resources. More number of users, you have inter-user interference. Better or more intelligent receivers. NOMA was historically proposed in CDMA systems. The idea was to support more number of chips as compared to the number of non-orthogonal. So the but by making them intentionally non-orthogonal, support more number of users. So this is what was studied in the context of CDMA. So NOMA was first looked at in that context. Limited orthogonal resources, you want to accommodate more number of users. You have frequency, you have code. These are the different dimensions where you can play around to include orthogonal users. Should we go about and use? Where do you bring in orthogonality, or where do you bring in NOMA? What happens is we'll be able to exploit the entire bandwidth the same time using the same code of CDMA. It uses the same bandwidth at the same time using the same code. Difference coming in. So the difference that comes in is something that can happen in two different regimes, happen in power domain or in code domain. So the first domain NOMA, users comes as difference in power levels. Power domain NOMA is that different power levels are allocated to different users. The quality of each user with respect to the base station. As I told you, different users are serviced over the same orthogonal resource. And the code, all of them are the same, but with different power levels. Assigned a different power level. This happens, how do you do data detection now? At the user level is done by using what is called as the successive interference cancellation. Successive interference cancellation in a while. Type of NOMA is the code domain NOMA. Principle of code domain NOMA is very simple. It is very similar to that of the code division multiple access, except that not orthogonal anymore. Correlation value. Orthogonality is lost, and there is an intelligent way you work a signal at the user's end. I will be concentrating more on the power domain NOMA in this talk. Wherever you see NOMA in the context of this particular talk, it is something which is, so whenever I say NOMA, it is actually the power domain. This power domain NOMA in greater detail can be seen as a new multiple access technique, a different domain in a new domain, which is the power domain. Other domains that we know, which is time, frequency, or code. How does this work? So at the transmitter side, station, you think of a downlink channel. Base stations are serving multiple users. Okay. At the transmitter side, at the base station side, there is signals users on each other over a single resource block. Let's say you pick up a particular band, okay, at the same time using the same code, superimposes all the user signal together levels and then transmits that as I told you at the receiver. User detection schemes such as the successive interference cancellation is used to separate the signals. So the receivers are slightly more intelligent as compared to the regular type receivers. Cancellation to decode these signals. At the transmitter side, superposition that is happening. So this is what is called as the superposition coding. Cancellation happens. So let us look at both these in detail. I will continue. So we will try to see how superposition coding works. Superposition coding behaves. Consider this example where you have a single base station, U1 and U2. That U1 is far away from the base station and U2 is closer to the base station. The channel quality from the base station to user 1 is inferior because it is far away. Channel quality from the base station to user 2. Station is the following. Respond to user 1 and user 2 be Y1 and Y2. Be the average power available at the base station. Transmits is combination of Y1 and Y2. Zeta times P, 1 minus zeta times P. The square root of zeta times P, 1 minus zeta times P times Y2, value between 0 and 1. The one thing that is done at the base station is the power allocated for user 1 is larger, theta is greater than 0.5. Inflow signal Z is transmitted to both users, user 1 and user 2 simultaneously over the same resource block. The users and Y2, user 1 to decode Y1 and user 2 to decode Y2. Okay. Here is a cartoon which tells you how superposition coding works for the two user case. It is far away from the base station, so it has an inferior channel quality. Close by to the base station. The scheme such as FDMA, the two are assigned two different is something which depends on the available power at the base station and the power allocation happens. The user 2, they share the same frequency resource, assigned a higher power as opposed to user 2 as is far away and user 2 is close by, or user 1 has an inferior channel and user 2 has a better channel. The superposition coding works. And two users, this working principle can be extended in a straightforward manner. If you have three users, user 1, user 2 somewhere in between, and user 3 which is close by, this available power into three pieces is power, least power, and user 2 will have something which is intermediate between these two power levels. Working principle of superposition coding. What is used is called as the successive interference cancellation. Cancellation is an iterative procedure. Remember that U1 has been assigned a higher power because it has a lesser channel quality. User 1 does is user 1 directly decodes its own signal by treating the interference due to Y2 as noise. 2 decodes Y1, cancels it from its own received signal, its own signal Y2. User 2 as noise and decodes directly. Decodes the strong signal that is user 1 signal, negates it from the observation and then decodes its own signal y2. Two users. The user with the weakest channel always, by treating the interference due to all other points, starting from 2 to n, that is all the other users, they will first decode the strong users, the strong signals first, negate or remove that signal from the received observation, its own signal. So therefore, the last user, if you have the nth user has to decode U1 signal, U2 signal, all the way up to UN minus 1 signal before decoding its own signal. Fundamental working principle of successive interference cancellation. Here is a diagram which tells you how successive interference cancellation works. It has a stronger signal, it has a weaker channel, assigned higher power, so it has a stronger signal directly. First decodes user 1 signal from the observations and then user 2, that is its own signal. Working principle. 3 users, it is straightforward. At the transmitter, if you have 3 users, let's say U1, U2 and U3, U1 is far off channel gain, U2 is somewhere in between and U3 is close by. So the channel gain from the base station to U3 is highest, like this, or moderately high for U2 and least power for U3. It decodes its signal, decodes U1 signal, its own signal. First decode U1 and then finally decode U3. If you have more than 3 users, if you have 4th user, the 4th user would do U1, U2, U3 and then its own signal U4. Example of how NOMA is used in standards or from an industry perspective, actually employed in ATSC 3.0 digital TV broadcasting standard in the US. A webinar on first day by Dr. Anindya on ATSC. I've touched upon this aspect there. So the technology that is used there, it is called as layer division multiplexing, also called as LDM. LDM is nothing but the power domain NOMA. A brief idea on how this works. Two layers. Power domain multiplexed signal, layer and lower layer, is intended for high data rate, high definition digital TV, and the upper layer is allotted for a higher power for portable devices. For UL, higher power is allocated lower power. The UL signal is directly decoded by considering the LL signal as interference. Lower layer signal is decoded by first decoding the upper layer signal, cancellation, right, and then decoding the LL signal. What is known is that this layer division multiplexing, which is NOMA, has a better performance in comparison with regular FDMA. Performance benefit also increases directly at the TV unit increases. Power domain NOMA perspective. Very little time on code domain NOMA. So that was on power domain. In code domain NOMA, as I told you, you have set of codes which are non-orthogonal basically. They have relation value and there are variants of that. There are several code domain NOMA techniques available in the literature. For example, you have low density spreading CDMA, spreading OFDM, okay, there is something called as the sparse code multiple access. Or SCMA is one of the widely used code domain NOMA techniques. Variants which I have listed here. I'm not going to explain these in detail because of the time, but interested folks can just read about it. SCMA is one of the widely used techniques. Some people also feel that code domain NOMA and power domain NOMA are not just the two ways to the NOMA techniques. There are also other NOMA schemes. Several variants starting from SCMA, which is also famous, bit division multiplexing, the compressive sensing based NOMA, and things like that. The details of this is something which we will skip in the interest of time. Diagram gives you multiple access technologies. It's been classified. Multiple access technologies include all these technologies which are well known: TDMA, FDMA, CDMA, and OFDMA. When you go to multiple carrier, NOMA divide this historically on how it was developed. Things like this. Here is the power domain NOMA, which has been starting from 2012. This layer division CDMA that I showed you and its variants, SCMA is here. So there are several techniques like this under the code division multiple access. Domain NOMA. Everything else either falls in the category of code domain NOMA or in the third category where any of these two. If you want more details on these techniques, NOMA, please look into this particular citation, this particular reference that is given here. You can download it. Here, kind of a snapshot which tells you NOMA schemes that are listed in the release 14 3GPP NR study item. These top-notch industries have proposed different variants of NOMA for either uplink or downlink or both. The SCMA, which is the kind of the famous one in code division, code domain NOMA, was proposed by Huawei. Its own variant. In fact, Nokia has two of them. A variant of NOMA, and Intel has a few. Again, these details are available in the reference that I just. Okay. Now coming to performance comparison, what is the big deal about NOMA when you compare it with other orthogonal multiple access technologies, in which you can compare NOMA and OMA. Case is the symmetric case where both these users U1 and U2 have the same channel. Then it turns out that the capacity region. So this is the rate of user R. R1 is the rate of user 1. R2 is the rate of user 2. For both users, OMA and NOMA is going to be the same. NOMA performs. If you look at the asymmetric case, where the channel gains, the received SNR are different. User U1 has 20 dB SNR, user U2 has 0 dB SNR. Case, considerable difference between the two achieved due to NOMA is much higher as compared to any other OMA. For example, FDMA, TDMA, or CDMA. Efficiency is higher, the rate region is higher, so therefore NOMA performs better than OMA. So there is no free lunch. So how is it that NOMA was reason that the intelligent in case of NOMA, it does successive interference cancellation. OMA receivers don't do. Extra resource, NOMA is able to perform better than OMA in terms of the rate region. These are the techniques, these are the advantages of NOMA over OMA. spectral efficiency like what we just now saw. Fact that you will be able to accommodate more number of users, potential to enable massive connectivity in 5G. Okay. Low latency in transmission, and it is also observed that the NOMA in a successful way, then it all it needs is a limited channel feedback. Okay, the channel state information of this is something which is not very hard to do. This, and of course, these advantages are something which is in line with the key features or key requirements of systems. So therefore, NOMA is a good candidate for 5G communication systems. The advantage of this NOMA technique, and that advantage is it is also readily integrable or readily integrable with other 5G technologies. You can integrate NOMA with technologies. Massive MIMO, full duplex communication systems, and VLC, visible light communications. Integration of NOMA with VLC, full communication systems, and massive MIMO is something which has already been looked at in greater detail by several research groups all around the world. Highlighted caching, cognitive radio, and mobile edge computing because my group has looked into integration of NOMA with these technologies. How this integration works, and then what are the improvements or what is the advantage that you see in these technologies. So the integration, I'd like to start by talking about our work, which was recently accepted in IEEE communication letters. Non-orthogonal multiple access in the presence of additive generalized Gaussian noise with Lena, Pascalis, and others. The system model for this particular work is as follows. L users, there is one single base station. User 1 is the faraway user, L is the close by user. Are ordered in that fashion. It's going to be less. H1 is going to be less as compared to H2, and so on and so forth. Users U1 all the way up to UL, asymmetric channel gains, H1 all the way up to HL, and they are all ordered. H1 is less than 1 and so forth, all the way up to HL. This is the working principle of NOMA, right? Channel gains HL, L, be independent and identically distributed random variables which follow Rayleigh distribution, which is one of the worst case scenarios, so not a bad assumption at all. But this is the situation. What will the base station transmit? It transmits a superimposed signal, which we denote by S. Summation L going from 1 to capital L, square root of AL, P into XL. This is what is transmitted from the base station to all these users. So it is like broadcasting this to all the users. Each user is given by YL is equal to HL into S plus NL. The usual linear model. Is that we assume that the noise NL wide generalized Gaussian noise and variance N0 by 2. I don't like this terminology AWGGN, but this is something which is stuck in the literature, so I'm using this. Noise is given by the expression that you see here. Lambda is related to the variance gamma of 3 by alpha divided by gamma of 1 by alpha, where this gamma is the Euler's gamma function or the complete gamma function. The normalization coefficient. This to be unity. The shaping parameter. any value between 0 to plus infinity. Know from information theory that the worst case noise to the generalized Gaussian distribution reduces to Gaussian distribution. So therefore, we assume that alpha goes from 0 to 2. It can take any value between 0 and 2. It goes back to Gaussian noise. This goes to the Laplacian noise. This generalized Gaussian noise model is useful in several applications. Under impulsive noise is something which always uses generalized Gaussian noise as an underlying model. It's supposed to be impulsive. Power line communications, it is also used in underwater communications, several. And once you have this, the performance analysis of generalized Gaussian noise, if you want to get it for regular Gaussian noise, all you have to do is set alpha is equal to 2 and you're done. So assume the following cancellation procedure that I just described, where each user decodes the strong signal first, okay, that can be imperfect in nature. That is definitely not perfect. The signal at the nth user interference cancellation is something which can be given like this into signal part. The different quantities here denotes imperfect successive interference cancellation. It denotes the inter-user interference. This is the intended signal due to imperfect SIC, inter-user interference plus noise. So you have all these four factors. Okay, delta x minus x hat, where x hat is the decoded signal, original signal that was transmitted. Note the error. What we assume is that as the inter-user interference is negligible as compared to the noise term and the imperfect SIC term. For this justification is when alpha becomes lesser and lesser than 2, this noise becomes more and more impulsive. That is, the noise will start to have heavier and heavier tails, PDF tails. So therefore, the inter-user interference will start to look minuscule in compared with the noise. So therefore, you can ignore it. Ignore the inter-user interference term. Received signal by L prime. What is the job at the nth user? The nth user has to decode XL. It uses the maximum likelihood detection. At user is given by XL hat, which maximizes the likelihood, maximizes the probability density function. For F, minimizing the right hand side is the same as minimizing the exponential term. This is the same as minimizing this particular term. The maximum likelihood detection at the users. We ask this question to derive average pairwise error probability at the nth user in NOMA. This average pairwise error probability averaged over the noise, of course, and also over the relay fading channel. Remember that we have assumed relay fading. Why pairwise error probability? Because pairwise error probability, as you know from your basic communication theory, it can be used to find a union bound on the bit error rate, and that gives you insights on the achievable. So we essentially want to also look into what is the diversity of each user. Towards this end, we have a theorem. The exact average pairwise error probability for this setup fading and is given by the massive expression that you see on your screen. Several terms are defined here. They don't matter a whole lot. In case you are interested, please look into the paper. This G bivariate majors G function. So, but the important thing is this pairwise error probability tells you what is the probability your transmitted signal XL is incorrectly decoded as XL hat. Is error probability, and that goes for all the symbols which are available in your modulation scheme. Simple. For the case of Laplacian and Gaussian noises, you just have to substitute alpha is equal to 1, alpha is equal to 2, and then simplify further. Then one can show that the pairwise error probability is given by this expression on top for Laplacian noise. This particular factor. Okay. So this is the real part of the difference. Calculating the pairwise error probability, you can on the bit error rate by using this expression on your right hand side. Q denotes the number of transmitted bits, denotes the a priori P of xi, xl denotes the a priori probability of transmitting xl, the number of bit errors between xl and xl dash. Results. The left hand side you see the result on the pairwise error probability. C bound, user 2 and user 3. We consider 3 users. That the power allocation coefficients for each of these users are given by 0.7, 0.2, and 0.1. 170% of power is given to U1, percent is given to U2, and then 10% is given to U3, so on, for different values of alpha. 1 and 2. Let's pick user 3 for simplicity. You see that whenever alpha decreases, of the PDF also increases, therefore your performance will come down. User 1, this user 2 has a slightly better performance, the best performance, and that is also reflected in the BER. To see is that hand side you can also see that our theoretical expression is matching with the simulations, so that validates our analysis. When you look at the bit error rate bound, right, it is interesting to see that the diversity orders for users U1, U2, and U3 are different. User 1 has a lesser diversity as compared to user 2, and that has compared to user 3. User 3 has the highest diversity. You are getting better diversity for user 3 because of the successive interference cancellation. We will look at what exactly is this diversity order. We did some simulations to check what this diversity order is. Alpha. You see that the diversity order is close to 1 diversity, which is very close to 2. Remember, diversity is an asymptotic definition, and we could go only up to 70 dB here. If we go higher, probably you'll start to see the exact diversity results. As a diversity which is of the order of 3. The thing in NOMA is that user, you will get the diversity of the order of the user. The order of 1, the order of 2, user L will have a diversity order of L. And this is known in the literature for Gaussian noise. We also showed that this is the same thing for Laplacian noise as well. So alpha is equal to 1. So the second work that I want to talk about is integration of access with caching. The recent papers in IEEE transactions on vehicular technology, which was accepted last year, on vehicle connectivity and automation using 5G networks. How do we combine caching with NOMA? Two users, user U1 and user U2. The colored files which are available at the base station. Operation happens in two different phases. It's called as the caching phase. Users U1 and U2 file and store that file in their cache memory. That user 1 requested this purple file and user 2 requested this, and it is green file in its own cache. User 1 has stored the purple file in its own cache. The caching phase. In the next instance, requests for the green file, requests for the purple file. One already has the purple file. Let's suppose that it requests for the green file. It has the green file. Let's suppose that it requests for the purple file. Station knows green as purple. As this, it will use NOMA purple file to both these users in power domain. Interesting thing happens. You don't have to do successive interference cancellation now. User 1 already has the purple file information already, so all it has to do is subtract from the signal that is transmitted by the base station and it gets its green file. Number already has the green file. Subtract the green file signal from the signal that is transmitted and it will have the idea behind cached base NOMA. You cannot a priori tell which file was cached and which file was requested, but this is something which can happen in the best case possible. Okay? You will have 4 different cases. We will see that. We use the same principle in the context of 5G vehicular networks. Okay, you have a bunch of vehicles moving on the road. Okay, all these vehicles will will store a file from the base station in its own cache. In the request phase, the base station will transmit a signal, and if that file is already cached at that particular car, right? Please subtract that signal from the NOMA signal. So it doesn't have to do successive interference cancellation. Let us consider a 2-user network with the base station. Okay, let at the base station assume that the popularity profile on F is modeled by a ZipF distribution with parameter zeta greater than 0. Popular model used for caching, as I told you. V1 and V2 fetch and store a set of files from F. We will assume that in vehicle V1, what is cached in vehicle V2. In the requesting phase, we assume that user 1 and user 2 will request for files F1 and F2. Assume that base station has a perfect knowledge of FB1 and FB2. That is, base station knows what are the cached contents in V1 and V2. This is a not bad assumption at all. And we will also assume that V1 and V2 have the knowledge of the power allocation done at the base station. Again, not a bad assumption at all.
Sanjeev, sorry to interrupt you. Will you be able to wind it up in 5-10 minutes so that we have time for some questions?
Sure. Okay. So, assume is cascaded Nakagami M fading channels at V1 and V2. So, this is a popular channel fading model. It works. So, what happens is you get 4 different cases depending on what has been cached at each of these vehicles. So V1 has cached F2, 1 has cached F2, but V2 has not cached F1. V1 has cached F2 and V2 has cached F1. And case 4 is V1 has not cached F2 and V2 has not cached F1. So all these 4 combinations are possible. The question is as follows. Cases. what is the optimal power allocation policy at the base station? Probability of successful decoding at both V1 and V2 is maximized. I will show you the mathematical analysis of case A only. Has cached F2 and V2 has cached F1. Of successful decoding, we will assume that a vehicle is able to decode the file correctly if the SINR is greater than a threshold. We will denote the SINR. Our job is to find this optimal power allocation factor alpha. The optimization problem is as follows. At vehicle V1 and V2, these two probabilities, we want to maximize this such that 0 and 1. We show that this problem is concave and then so on and so forth. We also work out the details for cases B and C, cases B, C, and D in the. So basically, this is the graph which tells you the probability of successful decoding versus power allocation factor for different cases. You see that for case A, it is a concave function. We show that it is concave between certain values here, between 0 and 0.5. Case B also. So it kind of tells you that there is a unique solution found out by just differentiating the cost function or using steepest ascent techniques. Okay. I just want to talk about one result. Here it is. So this tells you the probability of successful decoding, with optimal power allocation versus SNR and OMA. NOMA is all blue color. OMA is all red color. You see that NOMA outperforms OMA in terms of probability of successful decoding. Parameter. A little bit about other works from my. I'll just very briefly show you what this is. We also have COMSNETs which talk about cache-headed non-orthogonal multiple axis, where we consider again the 4 cases for different fading models: Weibull fading model, Nakagami M, Ricean, and log normal. Derive the expressions, exact expressions for the probability of successful decoding. Here for the case of Weibull, case 1 only, and this is for Ricean. Okay. See, even in this case, this is the success probability versus the total transmission power. Red is NOMA and blue is OMA. NOMA outperforms OMA every time. Nakagami fading and Ricean fading also. I will just skip NOMA with cognitive radius, but I think I'll skip this. I also, again, just to show you a result, integration of NOMA with cognitive radius, and in a correct way, then NOMA outperforms the OMA driven cognitive radio. Blue is NOMA and red is OMA again. Okay, so that's outperforming OMA everywhere. Another recent paper which minimization in NOMA based mobile edge computing. So this is accepted in Connect. And again, I won't have time to go through this, but I can share the details over email or quickly. Is recognized as one of the promising key features for 5G communication systems. Classified as power domain NOMA and port domain NOMA. To outperform OMA metric channel conditions in terms of spectral efficiency largely. Support for massive user connectivity and several other advantages. NOMA has a potential for integration with other 5G related technologies also, and is expected to play an important role in supporting implementation of 5G communication systems and low latency. Very much, this is the set of references for my talk. Thank you so much for your attention. Once again, I'm extremely sorry because of the delay that was caused. The audio problems, but this is the best that I could do at this point of time. So thank you so much for your patience and attention.
Yeah, Dr. Naveen or Mr. Chengappa, you can read the questions.
Thank you, Ganesh sir. So Dr. Sanjeev, it was really an insightful session. So we do have some questions. We would be going over it and you can answer them one by one. The first question goes like, how do you control the power threshold and what kind of matrix normalization? Could you please throw some light on that?
You mean I don't know what it actually means, but I'm taking it as the power allocation factor. Allow me to go back. Let's say guessing that by power level, the person who asked the question means this factor. If that is the case, then AI is chosen such that, for example, is you choose AI 0 and 1, that your pairwise error probability is minimum. In case of cache-aided non-orthogonal multiple access, we chose the power allocation coefficients in such a way that the probability of successful decoding is maximized. So you have a cost function and you optimize it based on that particular cost.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sanjeev. The next question goes like this. What kind of cell configuration and antenna patterns are used here?
Architecture.
Right.
For example, if you have MIMO setup, you can always do beamforming, that is signal processing beamforming. This is possible, but particularly I'm not sure about how antenna pattern is related.
No worries, Dr. Sanjeev. Thank you for that response. And the next question is, what are the future research opportunities in NOMA 5G?
Actually, a lot of things. Again, the research, if you look at in the context of NOMA, people have been looking at power domain NOMA as well as code domain NOMA in parallel. A lot of research is happening in code domain NOMA as well. Grant free access, semi-grant free access, and so on and so forth. Right. So there are a lot of things there. And one area that I think is picking up recently is integration of NOMA with other technologies. For example, massive MIMO or communication systems, things like that. So I think you'll have a working on a nice research problem if you integrate NOMA technologies for 5G.
Thank you, sir. Apart from that, I don't see any questions on the Q&A window as well. Do you have any concluding remarks to share with our participants?
Again, as I am reachable on this is my email ID. If somebody has any other questions or if you want something is not clear and if you have any other, free to write to me. I'm sorry for the delay caused from my side.
Sanjeev, I have one question. You showed that rates for the two user, rate 1, rate 2, the capacity curve, right? Will that be different if you look at the sum rate between the two users?
Yeah, so sum rate is also NOMA will meet OMA. I did not talk about integration of NOMA with cognitive radio. comparison that I showed there. Okay. When I say spectral efficiency, I actually mean sum rate.
Oh, okay.
Sum rate wise also, you'll see a better sum rate.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
So one last question. So as we were discussing on this, we got one more one more questions. Probably I think we can take this. So the question goes like, how good is power domain NOMA when compared to code division NOMA?
Okay. Sure. Because I think comparison. I think it's the fundamental working principle of both these types of NOMA are different. In the power domain, domain NOMA, the way in which the kind of questions that you ask are slightly different as compared to what we are doing. These are all physical layer questions, and then
No worries, Dr. Sanjay. Yeah, totally understand that. Before I think like since you have already shared your emails, I think the participants can reach out to you with their doubts and clarifications on the same. So before we wind up, I also see Subhash sir and Gana sir. So final thoughts, and we can wrap up the session for today.
Yeah, I think as Dr. Sanjeev mentioned, this is a very rich area for both academic research as well as for practicing engineers. And as he said, it is like a old wine in the new bottle. So if you have a hardware which is working with OMA, we can always just add the power domain NOMA or the code domain NOMA and then experiment with various applications. So that way, it's I would say still an emerging field, and there is a lot of scope for research and engineering.
Thank you, Gana sir, and I again appreciate all the participants to staying with us, even though there was some technical glitches that we faced during the starting of the session. So please join us for tomorrow's session as well. So the link would be shared in the ComSoc website. And thanks once again. See you all tomorrow. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.